It was a warm Thursday evening when the event took place. Marcus, finishing a late work call, steps out of his apartment to clear his head. He walks down the street toward a small convenience store to grab some snacks. The evening air is thick with humidity, but Marcus enjoys the calm of the neighborhood. As he walks, he notices a squad car drive slowly past him. Officer Patrick Myers, driving the vehicle, gives him a long, assessing look. The look is nothing new to Marcus. It's one of those glances he's come to know over the years. The suspicion, the disapproval, the quiet judgment that lingers when a black man is walking on a sidewalk at night. No matter how bad and condescending it feels, you can't do anything about it as a black man or woman because it is considered normal. Minutes later, Marcus is standing near the corner store, picking out a soda when he feels a tap on his shoulder. He turns around, and before he can react, Officer Myers steps in front of him, blocking the entrance to the store. Myers: "Evening. Got any ID on you, sir?" Marcus: "What's this about, officer?" Myers: "Just routine." "You fit a description." Marcus raises an eyebrow. He's heard this phrase before, and it's often used as a thinly veiled excuse for racial profiling. Marcus: "A description of what exactly?" Myers: "A man in a hoodie walking around at night. We've had some reports of suspicious activity in the area." Marcus knows there's nothing to prove here, but his instincts tell him to tread carefully. He's aware of how easily situations like this can escalate beyond his control, so he remained calm and cooperated with Officer Myers. Marcus: "I'm just trying to buy a drink. You're welcome to check my ID, but there's no reason to get aggressive." But Myers isn't listening. He steps closer, now towering over Marcus. His tone shifts, becoming more authoritative and dismissive. Myers: "I'm not asking for your permission, buddy. Step back and show me your ID." Marcus takes a deep breath, trying to remain calm, though his pulse quickens. He doesn't want to escalate the situation, but something about the officer's tone feels all wrong. Marcus reaches into his pocket for his wallet, but as he does so, Myers seems to grow more agitated, his hand instinctively hovering near his belt. Myers: "Don't make any sudden moves." Marcus freezes. He's trying to remember the de-escalation tactics he's seen on TV, trying to keep his voice steady. Marcus: "I'm just pulling out my ID, officer." But Myers misinterprets the motion, and in an instant he pulls out his baton, jabbing it into Marcus's chest, forcing him back against the wall of the store. Myers: "I said don't move." The situation is spiraling. People on the street begin to take notice, some pulling out their phones, others avoiding eye contact, unsure of what to do. Marcus struggles to keep his breathing even, but his heart is racing. This wasn't supposed to happen. He's just a guy getting a soda. He knows how this plays out in the media, the countless stories of black men being treated unfairly by police. He knows this could be one of those stories. As Marcus is shoved to the ground, his mind races. The weight of the moment presses on him. His fear for himself, but also his fear of this situation. He knows he has to survive this. He can't let anger cloud his judgment. He's seen too many cases where a moment of resistance led to tragedy. Meanwhile, Officer Myers, acting out of suspicion, enjoyed the look of defeat on Marcus's face. It's not that he's unaccustomed to using force. He's had his fair share of tense situations, and one can boldly say he derives joy from excessive use of force. He keeps telling himself that he's in the right, that his actions are justified without a doubt. Was Marcus really dangerous? Was this all a mistake? The situation reaches its peak when backup arrives and the scene is filled with more officers. Tensions are running high as Myers orders Marcus to be cuffed. A crowd begins to gather, with some witnessing the escalation firsthand. Several bystanders started recording the event, which was a common thing. People at first bring out their cameras to record at the detriment of another person. Officer Myers explained to the other police officers that Marcus fit the description of the scammer they have been looking for, and the rest also believed without trying to check Marcus's ID or cross-reference it to the one of the suspects on their database. Marcus looked around him and felt hopeless and could only say a silent prayer to the forces of the heavens to help him and save him from this mess. His mind wandered to his family and the black community in general, and he felt so much sadness and vowed to fight to prove his innocence. But will that be easy? A thought countered. As the officers closed in, Marcus felt a sense of desperation wash over him. He knew he had to think fast, to find a way to prove his innocence before things escalated further. "Please," he said, his voice shaking with urgency, "just check my ID. I'm not who you think I am." But the officers were unmoved, their faces set in stern expressions. One of them, a tall, imposing figure with a thick beard, reached out and grabbed Marcus's arm, twisting it behind his back. "Turn around and face the wall," he growled. Marcus felt a surge of fear as he was forced to comply. He knew that once he was cuffed and turned around, he would be at the mercy of the officers. Just as he was about to be turned around, a voice cut through the chaos. "Wait!" someone shouted. "Stop!" The officers paused, looking up to see a woman pushing her way through the crowd. She was a petite African-American woman with a determined look on her face. "What's going on here?" she demanded, her eyes flashing with anger. One of the officers stepped forward, his hand resting on his hip. "This man is a suspect in a scamming operation," he explained. "We have reason to believe he's been targeting vulnerable individuals in the area." The woman's eyes narrowed. "I don't think so," she said, her voice firm. "This man is my neighbor. I've known him for years. He's a good person." The officers exchanged skeptical glances, but the woman continued to press her case. "Check his ID," she urged. "Verify his alibi. I'm sure you'll find that he's telling the truth." Slowly, the officers began to nod. One of them reached out and took Marcus's ID from his pocket, scanning it quickly before handing it back to him. The officers looked around them and saw the questioning eyes of the crowd, and they knew they couldn't make any hasty decision. So one of them stepped up and said, "I apologize, sir," he said, his voice gruff. "It looks like we've made a mistake." As the officers began to disperse, Marcus felt a wave of relief wash over him. He turned to the woman, his eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you. Thank you for standing up for me," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "I owe you one?" The woman smiled, her eyes warm with kindness. "You don't owe me anything," she said. "Just take care of yourself, okay? How did you know I was innocent?" The woman smiled and said, "I've lived in this neighborhood for years, and I've seen you round. You're a good person, Marcus. I knew you wouldn't be involved in anything like that." Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of gratitude towards her. "Thank you for having faith in me," he said. "I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't intervened." The woman waved her hand dismissively. "You don't have to thank me," she said. "I just did what anyone would have done in my position. Marcus smiled, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. He realized that there were still good people in the world, people who would stand up for what was right, even if it meant going against the authorities. As they stood there, a news van pulled up to the scene. A reporter jumped out, followed by a camera crew. "Excuse me," the reporter said, pushing her way through the crowd. "I'm with Channel 5 News. Can you tell me what happened here tonight?" Marcus hesitated, unsure of what to say. But the woman stepped forward, a fierce look in her eyes. "Yes, I'll tell you what happened," she said. "The police mistakenly identified this man as a suspect in a scamming operation. They harassed him, handcuffed him, and were about to take him away until I intervened." The reporter's eyes widened, and she turned to Marcus. "And can you confirm this?" she asked. Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of gratitude towards the woman. "Yes, that's exactly what happened," he said. The reporter nodded, her face serious. "I see," she said. "Well, we'll definitely be investigating this further." As the camera crew packed up their equipment and left, Marcus turned to the woman and asked, "What's your name?" "My name is Aya," she replied, smiling. Marcus smiled back, feeling a sense of gratitude towards her. "Thank you, Aya," he said. "I owe you one." Aya laughed and said, "You don't owe me anything, Marcus. Just take care of yourself." As they parted ways, Marcus couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. He realized that there were still good people in the world, people who would stand up for what was right, even if it meant going against the world. But as he walked away, he couldn't shake off the feeling that this wasn't over yet. He knew that the police would not take kindly to being embarrassed on live television, and he wondered what repercussions he might face. Little did he know the repercussions would be more severe than he could have ever imagined. As Marcus walked away from the scene, he couldn't shake off the feeling that he was being watched. He looked over his shoulder, but saw nothing out of the ordinary. He quickened his pace, his heart racing with anticipation. As he turned the corner onto his street, he saw a figure waiting for him. It was Officer Myers, the same officer who had harassed him earlier. "Well, well, well," Myers said, a sneer on his face. "Look what we have here, the hero of the hour." Marcus felt a surge of anger, but he kept his cool. "What do you want, officer?" he asked. Myers chuckled. "Oh, I just wanted to congratulate you on your little performance. You're quite the actor." Marcus shook his head. "I'm not an actor," he said. "I'm just a guy who was wrongly accused." Myers snorted. "Save it, pal. You think you're so smart, don't you? Well, let me tell you something. You're not as smart as you think you are." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He knew that Myers was trying to intimidate him, but he refused to back down. "I'm not afraid of you," Marcus said, his voice steady. Myers laughed. "We'll see about that," he said. "You're not as tough as you think you are." With that, Myers turned and walked away, leaving Marcus feeling shaken but determined. He knew that he had to be careful, but he also knew that he couldn't let Myers bully him. As he walked into his apartment, Marcus couldn't shake off the feeling that he was in danger. From his earlier encounter with Myers, he knew that Myers was not a man to be trifled with, and he wondered what other tricks he had up his sleeve. But Marcus was determined to fight back. He knew that he had done nothing wrong, and he was determined to clear his name. He sat down at his computer and began to type out a statement detailing everything that had happened. He knew that he had to be careful, but he also knew that he had to speak out. As he typed, Marcus felt a sense of determination wash over him. He knew that he was taking a risk, but he also knew that he had to stand up for himself and for other people around the world. He finished typing and read over his statement. It was a powerful indictment of the police department and their tactics. Marcus took a deep breath and clicked the publish button. His statement went live, and he knew that there was no turning back. He had taken a stand, and now he had to face the consequences. As soon as Marcus's statement went live, it began to spread like wildfire on social media. People from all over the city were sharing it, commenting on it, and expressing their outrage at the police department's actions. Marcus's phone began to blow up with notifications, and he couldn't keep up with the messages and comments pouring in. He was both amazed and intimidated by the response. Meanwhile, the police department was also taking notice of the statement. Officer Myers was furious when he saw it, and he immediately called his superiors to report the situation. "This is a disaster," Myers said, his voice trembling with rage. "We need to do something about this guy." The chief of police, a gruff but fair-minded man, listened to Myers's complaint and then asked him a few questions. "Officer Myers, did you in fact harass and intimidate Marcus as he claims in his statement?" the chief asked. Myers hesitated, knowing that he had crossed a line. "I may have been a little aggressive," he admitted, "but I was just trying to do my job." The chief sighed. "Officer Myers, you know as well as I do that we have a problem with racial profiling in this department, and now, thanks to your actions, we have a PR disaster on our hands." Myers knew that he was in trouble. He had let his emotions get the better of him, and now he was facing the consequences. The chief continued, "I'm going to have to suspend you pending an investigation. And if we find out that you did indeed harass Marcus, there will be further disciplinary action." Myers's face fell as he realized the gravity of the situation. He had never been suspended before, and the thought of losing his badge was unbearable. As he left the police station, Myers couldn't help but feel a sense of anger and resentment towards Marcus. He blamed him for his troubles, and he vowed to make him pay. Little did Myers know, Marcus was also facing backlash from the police department. They were trying to discredit him, to make him out to be a liar and a troublemaker. But Marcus was not alone. He had the support of his community, and he had the truth on his side. He was determined to fight for justice, no matter what it took. As the days passed, Marcus found himself at the center of a media storm. Reporters and camera crews were constantly at his doorstep, asking for interviews and statements. At first, Marcus was hesitant to speak out, but as he saw the impact that his story was having, he began to feel a sense of responsibility to share his experience with the world. He started to give interviews, sharing his story with anyone who would listen. He spoke about the harassment he had faced, the fear and anxiety that had gripped him, and the sense of injustice that had driven him to speak out. As Marcus's message spread, he began to receive support from all over the country. People from all walks of life were reaching out to him, sharing their own stories of harassment and discrimination. Marcus was amazed by the outpouring of support, and he realized that he was not alone. There were thousands of people out there who had faced similar experiences and who were still facing them today. With this newfound sense of purpose, Marcus decided to take his message to the next level. He started a social media campaign using the hashtag number #JusticeForMarcus to raise awareness about police brutality and racial profiling. The campaign went viral, with thousands of people sharing their own stories and experiences. Marcus's message was resonating with people all over the world, and he was becoming a symbol of hope and resistance. But not everyone was happy about Marcus's newfound fame. Officer Myers, who had been suspended pending an investigation, was seething with anger and resentment. He couldn't believe that Marcus was getting so much attention while he was being vilified and ostracized. He felt like he was being unfairly targeted, and he was determined to take revenge. As the days turned into weeks, Marcus began to notice strange occurrences around him. He would receive threatening messages on social media, and he would see suspicious people lurking around his neighborhood. At first, Marcus tried to brush it off, but as the incidents continued, he began to feel a sense of unease. He knew that he had made some powerful enemies, and he wondered if he was in danger. One night, as he was walking home from a community meeting, Marcus noticed a car following him. He quickened his pace, but the car kept pace with him, its headlights illuminating the dark street. Marcus's heart was racing as he turned down a side street, hoping to lose the car, but it followed him, its tires screeching as it took the turn. Suddenly, the car swerved to a stop beside him, and the window rolled down. Marcus saw Officer Myers' face leering at him, his eyes blazing with hatred. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" Myers sneered. "But you're not as smart as you think you are." Marcus's heart was racing as he realized that he was in grave danger. He knew that he had to get away from Myers and fast. With a surge of adrenaline, Marcus took off running, dashing down the street as fast as he could. He could hear Myers's car screeching behind him, but he didn't dare look back. He kept running until he reached the safety of his apartment, where he locked the door behind him and collapsed on the couch, gasping for breath. Marcus knew that he had to take action to protect himself from Myers's wrath. He called the police department, reporting the incident and asking for protection. But as he waited for the police to arrive, Marcus couldn't shake off the feeling that he was in grave danger. He knew that Myers was a powerful enemy, and he wondered if he would ever be able to feel safe again. The police arrived shortly, and Marcus reported the incident to them. They took a statement from him and promised to increase patrols in the area. But as the days went by, Marcus began to feel like he was living in a state of fear of the unknown. He was constantly looking over his shoulder, wondering if Myers was lurking in the shadows. One day, as he was walking home from work, Marcus saw a suspicious person lurking around his apartment building. He quickly called the police, and they arrived just in time to see the person fleeing the scene. The police chased after the person, but they were unable to catch them. Marcus was left feeling shaken and vulnerable. That night, Marcus received a visit from his friend Aya. She had heard about the incident and had come to check on him. Marcus was grateful for her company, and he told her everything that had happened. Aya listened intently, her expression growing more and more concerned. When Marcus finished talking, Aya took his hand in hers. "You can't stay here," she said. "It's not safe." Marcus nodded in agreement. He knew that he had to get out of there, at least for a while. Aya offered to let Marcus stay with her, and he gratefully accepted. As they packed up his belongings and left the apartment, Marcus felt a sense of relief wash over him. He knew that he would have to face Myers again eventually, but for now, he was safe. As they drove to Aya's house, Marcus couldn't help but feel grateful for her friendship. He knew that he could always count on her no matter what. When they arrived at Aya's house, Marcus was greeted by her warm and welcoming smile. He knew that he was safe there, at least for a little while. But as he settled into his new temporary home, Marcus couldn't shake off the feeling that Myers was still out there, waiting for him. He knew that he would have to be constantly on guard, always looking over his shoulder. The thought sent a chill down his spine, but Marcus was determined to not let Myers win. He was going to fight back, no matter what it took. As the days passed, Marcus settled into a routine at Aya's house. He was grateful for her hospitality and support, but he knew he couldn't stay there forever. One day, Aya came to him with an idea. "Marcus, I've been thinking," she said. "We need to take action against Myers. We can't just sit back and wait for him to make his next move." Marcus nodded in agreement. "I've been thinking the same thing," he said. "But what can we do?" Aya smiled. "I have a plan," she said. "We can file a complaint against Myers with the police department's Internal Affairs Division, and we can also take our story to the media." Marcus's eyes widened in surprise. "That's a great idea," he said, "but are you sure it's safe?" Aya nodded. "We'll be careful," she said. "We'll make sure to cover our tracks and protect ourselves. But we have to take a stand against Myers. We can't let him get away with what he's done." Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of determination wash over him. "Let's do it," he said. Together, Marcus and Aya began to gather evidence and build their case against Myers. They spent hours researching and documenting everything, from the initial harassment to the latest threats. As they worked, Marcus couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. He knew that taking on Myers wouldn't be easy, but he was determined to see justice served. Finally, the day arrived when they were ready to file their complaint. Marcus and Aya went to the police department's Internal Affairs office, where they met with a representative who listened to their story and took their statement. As they left the office, Marcus felt a sense of relief wash over him. He knew that this was just the beginning of a long and difficult process, but he was determined to see it through. But as they walked back to Aya's car, Marcus noticed a familiar face watching them from across the street. It was Officer Myers, his eyes narrowed in anger and hatred. Marcus's heart skipped a beat as he realized that Myers had been following them. He knew that they were in grave danger, and he quickly pulled Maya into the car. "We have to get out of here," he said, starting the engine. "Now!" As they sped away from the scene, Marcus couldn't shake off the feeling that they were being hunted. He knew that Myers would stop at nothing to silence them, and he was determined to protect Aya and himself at all costs. As they drove away from the police station, Marcus's mind was racing with thoughts of what could happen next. He knew that Myers was a dangerous man, and he was determined to protect Aya and himself. Aya, sensing Marcus's tension, reached out and put a hand on his arm. "Hey, we're going to be okay," she said. "We've taken a big step by filing that complaint. Now we just have to wait and see what happens." Marcus nodded, trying to calm down. He knew that Aya was right, but he couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. As they drove, Marcus noticed that they were being followed by a black SUV. He couldn't see the driver's face, but he knew that it was probably Myers or one of his associates. "Aya, I think we're being followed," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. Aya turned around, looking out the back window. "That's a black SUV," she said. I think you're right. Marcus's heart was racing now. He knew that they had to get rid of the SUV, but he didn't know how. Suddenly, Aya had an idea. I know a place where we can lose them, she said. Follow me. Marcus nodded, and Maya directed him to a nearby parking garage. They drove into the garage, winding their way up several levels. As they reached the top level, Aya pointed to a stairwell. We can take the stairs down to the street, she said. The SUV will never think to look for us there. Marcus nodded, and they quickly got out of the car and made their way down the stairs. As they emerged onto the street, Marcus looked around, trying to spot the SUV, but it was nowhere to be seen. They had successfully lost their tail. Marcus let out a sigh of relief as Aya turned to him and smiled. We did it, she said. We're safe. But as they walked away from the parking garage, Marcus couldn't shake off the feeling that they were still in danger. He knew that Myers was a relentless man, and he would stop at nothing to silence them. As they walked, Marcus noticed a piece of paper on the ground. He picked it up, expecting it to be trash. But as he looked at the paper, his heart sank. It was a note, written in red ink. You can't hide forever, the note read. Marcus showed the note to Aya, and her eyes widened in fear. It's Myers, she whispered. He's still after us. Marcus nodded, his mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. He knew that they had to take action, but he didn't know what. As they stood there, frozen in fear, Marcus knew that their ordeal was far from over. Marcus and Aya quickly looked around, trying to see if anyone was watching them, but the street was empty, and they were alone. We need to get out of here, Aya said, her voice shaking. Now. Marcus nodded, and they quickly started walking away from the parking garage. They didn't know where they were going, but they knew they had to get away from there. As they walked, Marcus couldn't shake off the feeling that they were being watched. He kept looking over his shoulder, expecting to see Myers or one of his associates following them, but every time he looked, there was no one there. After a few blocks of walking, Aya stopped and turned to Marcus. I think we're safe now, she said. We can stop and catch our breath? Marcus nodded, and they stopped in front of a small coffee shop. They went inside and sat down at a table, trying to calm down. As they sat there, Marcus couldn't help but think about the note. You can't hide forever, it said. Marcus knew that Myers was right. They couldn't hide forever. They had to take action, to do something to stop Myers once and for all. But what could they do? Myers was a powerful man with connections to the police department. They were just two ordinary people trying to stay alive. As they sat there trying to come up with a plan, Marcus's phone suddenly rang. He hesitated for a moment, wondering if he should answer it. But then he saw the caller ID. It was Rachel, the lawyer who had helped him with his case. Hello? Marcus said, answering the phone. Marcus, it's Rachel, the lawyer said. I've been trying to reach you. I have some news about your case. Marcus's heart skipped a beat. What is it? He asked. Rachel hesitated for a moment before speaking. The police department has agreed to investigate Myers, she said. They're going to look into his conduct and see if he's been involved in any wrongdoing. Marcus felt a surge of hope. This was the break they needed. With the police department investigating Myers, they might finally be able to bring him to justice. But as he looked over at Aya, he saw a look of concern on her face. What's wrong? Marcus asked. Aya leaned in close. If the police department is investigating Myers, that means he's going to be more desperate than ever, she whispered. We need to be careful." Marcus nodded, feeling a chill run down his spine. Aya was right. They had to be careful. Myers was a dangerous man, and he would stop at nothing to silence them. Marcus and Aya left the coffee shop, feeling a sense of hope and trepidation. They knew that the investigation into Myers's conduct was a positive step, but they also knew that it could make Myers even more desperate and dangerous. As they walked, Marcus's phone rang again. This time, it was an unknown number. "Hello?" Marcus said, answering the phone. "Marcus, it's Detective James," a voice said. "I'm with the Internal Affairs Division. We're investigating Officer Myers, and I need to ask you some questions." Marcus's heart skipped a beat. He had never spoken to Detective James before, but he knew that the Internal Affairs Division was responsible for investigating police misconduct. "Okay, I'll cooperate," Marcus said. Detective James asked Marcus a series of questions about his encounters with Myers, including the harassment and the threatening note. Marcus answered as honestly and thoroughly as he could. As they spoke, Marcus couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. He knew that Myers was a powerful and well-connected man, and he worried that the investigation might not be enough to bring him to justice. But Detective James seemed determined and sincere. "We're going to do everything we can to hold Officer Myers accountable," he said. "But I need your help. Can you come down to the station tomorrow to give a formal statement?" Marcus agreed, and they made arrangements for him to come to the station the next day. As Marcus hung up the phone, Aya looked at him with concern. "What did he say?" she asked. Marcus filled her in on the conversation, and Aya's expression turned thoughtful. "I think we're making progress," she said, "but we still need to be careful." Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of determination wash over him. He was ready to do whatever it took to bring Myers to justice and put an end to the harassment and intimidation. But as they walked away from the coffee shop, Marcus couldn't shake off the feeling that this was just the beginning of a brooding war. He told Aya about his concern, and she said, "It is normal considering everything that is happening." Still, the feeling persisted, and Marcus knew that they couldn't let their guard down, not even for a moment. As they walked, Aya suddenly stopped and turned to Marcus. "I think we should find a safe place to stay," she said, "just in case." Marcus nodded, feeling a surge of fear. He knew that Maya was right. They couldn't take any chances. "We'll be staying at a safe house on the other side of town," Aya said. The house belonged to her late grandparents, and it had been deserted for a while. As they made their way to the safe house, Marcus was overwhelmed with a sense of gratitude towards Aya. She had been with him every step of the way, supporting him and keeping him safe. When they arrived at the house, Marcus was surprised to see that it was a small apartment in a quiet farmland. "This is it," Aya said, smiling. "We'll be safe here." Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. He knew that they would be safe at the safe house. As they settled into the apartment, Marcus felt a sense of hope. He knew that they still had a long way to go, but he also knew that they were one step closer to bringing Myers to justice. But just as they were starting to feel safe, Marcus heard a noise outside the apartment. It sounded like footsteps, heavy and deliberate. Marcus's heart skipped a beat as he turned to Aya. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. Aya nodded, her eyes filled with concern. Marcus's heart was racing as he slowly got up and made his way to the window. He peeked outside, but saw nothing. He thought his mind was playing a trick on him, and you calmed him, and they went to bed. The following day, Marcus went to the station to see Detective James of Internal Affairs concerning their investigation against Myers. As Marcus sat in the secure location, giving his statement to Detective James and the Internal Affairs agents, he couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over him. It was finally over, or was it? Myers would face justice, and they could finally start to rebuild their lives. But just as Marcus was starting to feel like he could finally breathe again, one of the agents burst into the room looking frantic. "What is it?" Detective James asked, his expression serious. "It's Aya," the agent said, his voice shaking. "We've received a report that she's been found dead in the safe house." Marcus's world came crashing down around him. "What?" he whispered, feeling like he'd been punched in the gut. Detective James's expression turned grim. "I'm so sorry, Marcus. It looks like Myers must have found out where the safe house was located." Marcus felt a wave of rage wash over him. "How did he know the location of the safe house?" he demanded. His mind flashed back to when he mentioned it to Detective James during the questioning. The agent, ashamed, hesitated before speaking. "It looks like Myers must have had inside help. One of our own agents must have leaked the location of the safe house." Marcus's eyes widened in shock. "One of your own agents?" he repeated. Detective James nodded. "We're investigating now, but it looks like we have a mole within our own department." Marcus felt like he was going to throw up. He had trusted the police to keep Aya safe, and now she was dead. "How did she—" Marcus started to ask, but couldn't finish the sentence. The agent took a deep breath before speaking. "Aya was found with a single bullet wound to the head. It looks like Myers must have snuck into the house and killed her." Marcus felt like his whole world had come crashing down around him. He had never felt such a deep sense of loss and anger before. Detective James put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "We're going to get Myers for this, Marcus. I promise you that." But Marcus just shook his head. It was too late. Aya was gone, and nothing could bring her back. The one person that he could trust, the one person that stood by him. Now she's gone. As the agents and Detective James continued to question Marcus, he couldn't help but feel a sense of guilt wash over him. He had put Maya in danger, and now she was dead. Marcus knew that he would never forgive himself for what had happened. He had let Aya down, and now she was dead. The rest of the day was a blur for Marcus. He answered questions, gave statements, and tried to process the loss of his friend. But as the sun began to set, Marcus knew that he had to do something. He couldn't just sit around and do nothing. He turned to Detective James and the agents. "I want to see Myers," Marcus said, his voice cold and hard. Detective James hesitated before nodding. "Okay, Marcus, but you have to promise me that you'll stay calm, because we currently don't have any evidence that directly leads to his involvement in the death of Aya." Marcus nodded, his heart pounding with anger. He was going to face Myers, and he was going to make him pay for what he had done, even if that's the last thing he's able to do. As Marcus walked into the interrogation room, he was met with the cold, calculating gaze of Officer Myers. Myers was handcuffed to the table, a smug smile spreading across his face. Marcus felt a surge of anger, but he kept his cool. He knew that he had to stay calm if he was going to get justice for Aya. "So, Marcus," Myers said, his voice dripping with sarcasm, I see you're still alive. How quaint." Marcus ignored Myers's taunts, instead focusing on the detective who was standing in the corner of the room. "I want to know how you did it," Marcus said, his voice firm. "How did you find out where Aya was hiding?" Myers shrugged, a look of mock innocence on his face. "I have my ways," he said. The detective stepped forward, a look of anger on his face. "We know you had help, Myers," he said. "We know you had a mole within the department." Myers' smile faltered for a moment before he regained his composure. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, but Marcus knew that Myers was lying. He could see it in his eyes. Suddenly, the door to the interrogation room burst open, and a woman rushed in. "Wait!" she cried. "Don't say anything else." Marcus turned to see who the woman was, and his eyes widened in shock. It was Rachel, the lawyer who had been helping him with his case. "What's going on?" Marcus asked, feeling confused. Rachel turned to him, a look of urgency on her face. "I just received a call from an anonymous source," she said. "They told me that Myers is just a small part of a much larger conspiracy." Marcus's eyes widened in shock. "What do you mean?" he asked. Rachel hesitated before speaking. "I think Aya's death is just the tip of the iceberg and a strategy to throw us off from the main issue," she said. "I think there are more people involved, more people who are willing to kill to keep their secret safe." Rachel further explained that the supposed scamming issue was more than that, and it was actually an organization of people who scammed people under the pretense of it being done by a black person, and Marcus was meant to be used as a scapegoat when people started filing a complaint against the scammers. They needed someone to be convicted for the case so the eyes of the public would be moved away from them. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. This newfound information was a lot for him. He couldn't understand why an innocent person had to go through this. He knew that Rachel was right. He had stumbled into something much bigger than he had ever imagined. Marcus's mind was racing with questions and fears. He knew that he had to get to the bottom of the conspiracy, but he also knew that he was in grave danger. Rachel turned to the detective. "I need to speak with my client in private," she said. The detective nodded and left the room, taking Myers with him. As soon as they were alone, Rachel turned to Marcus. "We need to get you out of here now," she said. "It's not safe." Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of urgency. "What's going on?" he asked. "Who is behind this conspiracy?" Rachel hesitated before speaking. "I don't know yet," she said. "But I have a few leads. We need to get you to a safe house and start investigating." Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of determination. He was going to get to the bottom of this conspiracy, no matter what it took. As they left the police station, Marcus couldn't shake off the feeling that he was being watched. He looked around, but saw no one. Rachel noticed his unease. "We'll get you to a safe place," she said. "Don't worry." But Marcus couldn't help but worry. He knew that he was in grave danger, and he didn't know who to trust. As they drove through the city, Marcus's phone rang. He hesitated before answering it. "Hello?" he said. "Marcus, it's Detective James," the voice on the other end said. "I need to warn you. We've received a tip that there's a hit out on you." Marcus's heart skipped a beat. "What?" he said. "It's true," Detective James said. "You need to be careful. We'll do everything we can to protect you, but you need to be vigilant." Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of fear. He knew that he was in grave danger. As he hung up the phone, Rachel looked at him with concern. "What is it?" she asked. Marcus took a deep breath before speaking. "There's a hit out on me," he said. Rachel's eyes widened in shock. "We need to get you to a safe house now," she said. Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of urgency. He knew that he had to get to a safe place and fast. Rachel quickly pulled out her phone and dialed a number. "We need a safe house now," she said to the person on the other end of the line. Marcus looked around nervously, feeling like he was in a movie. He had never been in a situation like this before. Rachel hung up the phone and turned to Marcus. "We have a safe house set up for you," she said. "It's a secure location, and you'll be protected." Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of relief. He was grateful to have Rachel's help. Rachel noticed his unease. "We're almost there," she said. "Just a few more minutes." Marcus nodded, trying to calm down. He knew that he was in good hands with Rachel. As they pulled up to the safe house, Marcus was surprised to see that it was a building in a quiet neighborhood similar to the one Maya took him previously. Rachel smiled. "This is a secure location," she said. "You'll be safe here." Marcus nodded, but didn't feel a sense of relief. Will he finally be safe? He thought. As they went inside, Marcus was greeted by a team of security guards. They were all heavily armed and looked like they meant business. Rachel introduced Marcus to the guards, and they showed him to a secure room. As Marcus settled in, he couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude towards Rachel. She had saved his life. But as he looked around the room, Marcus couldn't shake off the feeling that he was still in danger. He knew that the people behind the conspiracy would stop at nothing to silence him. And as he lay down to rest, Marcus couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. Would he be able to uncover the truth behind the conspiracy, or would he become the next victim? As Marcus lay in bed, he couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. He knew that he was in a secure location, but he also knew that the people behind the conspiracy were powerful and ruthless. Just as he was starting to drift off to sleep, Marcus heard a noise outside his room. It sounded like footsteps, light and cautious. Marcus's heart skipped a beat as he sat up in bed. He looked around the room, but saw nothing out of the ordinary. Suddenly, the door to his room opened, and Rachel slipped inside. She looked pale and nervous, and her eyes were wide with fear. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Rachel hesitated before speaking. "I've received a message from an unknown number," she said. "They claim to have information about the conspiracy." Marcus's eyes widened with interest. "What kind of information?" he asked. Rachel hesitated again before speaking. "They claim to have evidence that the conspiracy goes all the way to the top," she said. "They claim to have proof that the government, the police department, and even the justice system are all involved." Marcus's mind was reeling. He had suspected that the conspiracy was big, but he had no idea it was this big. Rachel took a deep breath before speaking. "We need to meet with the source," she said. "We need to get our hands on that evidence." Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of determination. He was ready to take on the conspiracy, no matter how powerful it was. Together, Marcus and Rachel made their way to the meeting point, a deserted warehouse on the outskirts of town. As they entered the warehouse, Marcus saw a figure waiting for them in the shadows. The figure stepped forward, revealing a woman with a hoodie pulled up over her head. "I'm Sarah," she said. "I have the evidence you're looking for." Marcus's eyes widened as Sarah handed him a small USB drive. He inserted it into his phone and began to scroll through the files. As he read through the documents, Marcus's eyes grew wide with shock. The conspiracy was even bigger than he had imagined. It went all the way to the top, involving some of the most powerful people in the country. Marcus looked up at Rachel and Sarah, his eyes filled with determination. "We need to take this to the press," he said. "We need to expose the conspiracy to the world." Rachel and Sarah nodded in agreement. Together, the three of them made their way to the local news station, ready to reveal the truth to the world. As they entered the news station, Marcus felt a sense of pride and purpose. He had come a long way since the day he had received the mysterious message. He had uncovered a conspiracy that went all the way to the top, and he was ready to expose it to the world. He felt Aya would be so proud of him. With Rachel and Sarah by his side, Marcus faced the cameras, ready to tell his story. "My name is Marcus," he began, "and I have a story to tell. A story about corruption, conspiracy, and deceit." As Marcus spoke, his words were broadcast to the world. The conspiracy was finally exposed, and the people involved were brought to justice. Marcus's story sparked a national outcry, and soon the conspiracy was the talk of the town. The government was forced to take action, and soon the people involved were brought to justice. Marcus's bravery had sparked a revolution, and he had become a hero to many. He had taken on the conspiracy and won, and he had inspired others to do the same. As Marcus walked away from the news station, he felt a sense of pride and purpose. He had made a difference not only now, but also for the future, and he had inspired others to do the same. And as he looked up at the sky, Marcus knew that he had finally found his place in the world.